Now turn to page 354, and I'd like you to read 354, 355, 356, and 357 down to the part that says before the exam. Now, let's take a look at the heading before the exam on page 357 near the bottom of the page. Number 1, make a list of poets and poems you remember. Analyze poems you like, disliked, loved, hated, and were indifferent to. Find the poems. Reread them, and for each one, analyze your feelings. First of all, about the poetry itself. Have your feelings changed? Now what do you like or hate? Then paraphrase the meaning of each poem. Notice how the magic goes from the poem, i.e. daffodils. The poet sees many daffodils by the side of a lake and then thinks how the sight of them later comforts him. Number 2, choose a poem at random from an anthology or one mentioned in this introduction. Read it a couple of times, preferably aloud, because the speaking voice will automatically grasp the rhythm, and that will help the meaning. Do not become bogged down in individual word connotation or the meaning of the poem. Let the poetry do its work on you. Absorb the poem as a whole jigsaw puzzle. Number 3 on page 358. Now take the puzzle apart. Look carefully at the title. Sometimes a straightforward title helps you focus. Sometimes a playful title helps you get an angle on the meaning. Happy Families, of course, is an ironic title because the family playing the card game of that name is not happy. Number 4, look carefully at the punctuation. Number 5, look carefully at the words. Number 6, look carefully at all the techniques being used. Number 7, look carefully at the speaker. Number 8, start putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. Number 9, write a poem of your own. Now, on page 359, follow with me as I read during the exam. You will have established a routine for reading poetry, but now you are under pressure. You must work quickly and will have no access to a dictionary. You cannot read aloud, but you can, number 1, internalize the reading. Hear the reading in your head. Read through the poem 2 or 3 times following the absorbing procedure. Number 2, if the title and poet are supplied, analyze the title as before and determine the era of the poetry. Often this pushes you toward the meaning. Number 3, look carefully at the questions which should enable you to be able to tap into your learning process. Answer the ones that are immediately clear to you. Form, technique, language perhaps. Number 4, go back for another reading for those questions that challenge you. Theme or meaning perhaps. Analyze the speaker or the voice at work. Paraphrase the meaning. Ask the simple question, what is the poet saying? Number 5, if a question on the exam asks you about a specific line, metaphor, opening or closing lines, highlight or underline them to force your awareness of each crucial word. Internalize another reading emphasizing the highlighted area. Analyze again the options you have for your answers. Number 6, do not waste time on a super tough question. Move on to another section and let the poetry do its work. Very often the brain will continue working on the problem on another level of consciousness. When you go back to the difficult question, it may well become clear. Number 7, if you're still not sure of the answer, choose the option that you feel is closest to correct. In fact, I'm going to tell you to go ahead and guess. Try to narrow the options down to 2 different selections and take an educated guess. Now I'd like to read the poem for you on page 360. Follow along with me. Why could she not stop for death? Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove, he knew not haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too for his civility. We passed the school where children strove, At recess in the ring, we passed the fields of gazing grain, we passed the setting sun. Or rather, he passed us. The dews drew quivering and chill, for only gossamer my gown, my tippet only told. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then, 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity. Now I'd like you to take the next 3 minutes and answer questions 1, 2, and 3 on pages 360 and 361. Okay, let's take a look at the poem on page 360 and look at the answers to questions 1, 2, and 3. Number 1, what is the author's attitude toward dying in the poem? That would be choice 4. She is contented. She's not terrified, overjoyed, angry, or frustrated. Question number 2 on page 361. Death is personified as, that would be choice 5, a carriage driver, as you can see in the first part of the poem. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. Question 3, lines 21 through 24 signify that death is timeless, choice 1. You can see lines 21 through 24, since then 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horses' heads were towards eternity.